Key Themes in Genesis 1 to 11 by Dr. G. John Daniel.
Section 2. 2. The interpretation of day in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, 2-3. The question of what the term day means in the context of the creation account in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, 2-3 is a topic that has been of considerable interest to Christian theologians, scholars, and laypeople alike. Various interpretations have been proposed, each with its own merits and challenges. It's crucial to approach this topic with both theological rigor and humility, acknowledging that while the Bible reveals essential truths about God and creation, it does not provide exhaustive scientific details. Historical Christian belief, while diverse in nuances across traditions, has often emphasized the importance of a literal interpretation of Scripture, including Genesis chapter 1:11. This literalist perspective understands the events described in these chapters as real, historical occurrences. When it comes to the creation account and the term day in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, 2-3, many proponents of a literal interpretation assert that day means a 24-hour period, ascribing to the belief that God created the universe and everything within it in 6 literal days. This viewpoint is grounded in the conviction that Scripture should be read and understood in its plain sense unless the context suggests otherwise. We believe that God's omnipotence is demonstrated through His ability to create the universe in such a concise time frame. A straightforward reading of Genesis aligns with the intent of the author and the understanding of the original audience. While there are various interpretations of these passages within Christendom, a literal understanding of the days in Genesis remains a cornerstone for many within the Orthodox Christian tradition. 2.1 The 24-hour day theory, literal days. This is the most straightforward interpretation, holding that God created the universe and everything in it within a 6-day span, with each day lasting 24 hours. This view generally aligns well with a plain reading of the text, taking the phrases, "and there was evening," and "there was morning," as indicative of a regular day-night cycle. For proponents, this interpretation honors the authority and clarity of Scripture. Christian response. While this view adheres closely to a literal reading of the text, critics argue that it can conflict with extensive scientific evidence suggesting an old Earth and universe. However, proponents often argue that God, being omnipotent, could create a universe with apparent age, or that scientific data is not as conclusive as generally thought. 2.2 The day-age theory, days as epochs. The day-age theory posits that each day of creation might represent a long, undefined period, possibly aligning the account with geological and cosmic timeframes suggested by science. Verses like Psalm chapter 90 verse 4 are cited to show that the word day can metaphorically mean a longer period. Christian response. This approach seeks to harmonize the biblical account with scientific understanding, making it attractive to those who see no conflict between faith and science. However, it is often criticized for potentially stretching the text to fit external concepts. 2.3 The intermittent day theory, literal days separated by time. This theory suggests that each day was a literal 24-hour period, but these days were not consecutive. Long, undefined periods separate these creative acts. Christian response. This view is less common but attempts to reconcile a literal reading of day with the scientific data supporting an old Earth. Critics argue that this interpretation may be more forced and doesn't easily align with the natural reading of the text. 2.4 The revelatory day theory, days of revelation, not creation. This interpretation suggests that the 6 days pertain to the period during which God revealed the creation narrative to Moses, rather than the time it took for creation to occur. Christian response. This theory allows for a more flexible interpretation of the days and avoids conflicts with scientific timelines. However, it can be critiqued for distancing the text from historical events and making the account more allegorical. 2.5 The gap theory, a space between verses. This theory proposes a time gap between Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and 1-2, during which the world fell into chaos, possibly due to Satan's fall. The rest of Genesis chapter 1 then describes the earth's restoration. Christian response. This interpretation can accommodate scientific theories about Earth's age but is often criticized for reading too much into the text and lacking robust scriptural support. The diversity of interpretations reflects the complexity of reconciling an ancient religious text with modern scientific understanding. Each approach has theological, philosophical, and scientific implications. The core belief uniting all interpretations within Christian thought is that God is the sovereign creator of all things, whether in 6 days or over billions of years. Therefore, the debate should not overshadow the essential truth that Genesis seeks to convey: the majesty and sovereignty of God in the act of creation.